This NBA Summer League Championship Game Betting Picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contest. $14 million up for grabs. Get all the details exclusively on circasports.com. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Monday, July the 17th, currently 2:06 on the East Coast, here to discuss the NBA Summer League Championship game between the Cleveland Cavaliers and my Houston Rockets. Maybe it's going to be our first ring of many coming in the next decade, but hey, we're going to see if that comes to fruition tonight. But joining me to help me break down the Summer League and what we've kind of seen, and of course, get into the championship game picks. You guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, NFL, MLB. Of course, you're on NBA, WNBA. He's all over the place. It's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, how you feeling, my man?
Doing pretty well. Unfortunately, though, bit of a sad note. My team lost in the semis via overtime to Cleveland. So I'm obviously devastated. I'm not sure how I can overcome the Nets losing in overtime there. I think I'll live. But overall, it's been a pretty fun summer league. To be honest, I really have not been that involved in betting on it. Just has not really been something that I have been that involved in. And I was going to initially. Then I got distracted with baseball. And then you had the All-Star break, and I had no excuse, and I still wasn't betting on Summer League because I really just tried to get in too late at that point. But it's been fun. It does seem like Cleveland, Houston, Utah, those seem to be like the main three teams throughout the entire Summer League. And, of course, we ended up seeing Utah lose in these semis to Houston. So I'm not totally shocked. It's how it played out. Cleveland's been very solid. I'm shocked my Nets were there. My Nets turned out to actually be a decent Summer League team, which they never are. But for the most part, kind of what we expected. A lot of moments for top draft picks. They played a decent amount of games. Then they decided that it was time to actually save their energy for the regular season. And we got the Rockets and the Cavs. So maybe this might be the only championship that the Rockets are going to win for a long, long time. So we'll see what happens. I said maybe. I said maybe. But should be a fun game. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll have to excuse you. You had something, you were busy with something called the Wimbledon. I don't know if people caught on to that, but yeah,
pretty fun match on Sunday.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was a classic for sure. Also joining us from some part of the world, not his usual place that he's in. He's been knee deep in the NBA Summer League. He's been cashing his tickets as well for the Summer League. It's Lonte Smith. Lonte, how you doing, my man?
Yeah, man, doing pretty good. Unlike Scott, well, kind of like Scott, I'm devastated, but just more devastated that the Summer League's ending. But at least we get to watch a championship game together. So, yeah, man, looking forward to the game today. Hopefully we can get on the right side. Let's hope so.
Yeah, so we're down to the final two teams here, of course, for the championship game on Monday night. I believe it's at 9 Eastern or 8 Eastern, one of the two. I'll look it up in the meantime. But
like 9. You good?
9 Eastern? Yep. Okay. Yep. Last game happening in Vegas. Hopefully next summer we're all able to get out there. Hopefully, fingers crossed for the Summer League. But yeah, like we mentioned, is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Houston Rockets in the championship game here tonight. But before we get into the actual championship games, I'm gonna kick it over to Lonte. Lonte, outside of the Cavs and the Rockets, which other teams or maybe in particular players have kind of impressed you that may be fighting for a roster spot, or teams maybe signing to a deal, maybe like a two-way contract, or working into the G League? Any players that have stood out to you outside of the two teams that we're going to see here tonight?
Yeah, bunch. I guess I'll be a homer and start off with the Lakers. I think Colin Castleton had a good Summer League. He did pretty well in pick and roll. He was good at blocking shots, which he was good with at Florida. Stretching the floor. He can't really shoot the three as well as you would like to in a stretch five. But again, I mean, he's not going to be needed to score with LeBron and AD on the side. But he can provide a big body. He can pass. He can defend. He's good in the switches on the pick and rolls. It allows AD to go more so in that roamer defensive position. So I like Castleton. I think he has a shot to make the roster and actually contribute to the Lakers, because I mean, again, outside of AD, I mean, they don't have a big body. That's what cost them in the Denver series. So I think that Castleton was a big winner in the Summer League. I mean, I guess we'll talk about him later on. I thought Gigi did great in the summer league for the Memphis Grizzlies. He was pretty highly touted out of South Carolina. He was going to North Carolina, but got switched up. So he didn't. I guess they didn't perform well as a team, but he did well. But his age, maturity issues caused him to fall. But I think he went to a good organization. I don't know how I feel about him being, in the same room as Ja, but that's another subject. And they're from the same area. So, I mean, man, it's a bunch of guys. I would say Castleton was probably the top, not drafted guy, one of the top non-drafted guys in this class, and I thought he really performed well. And we're going to talk about Imani Bates here in a little bit. Taquavion Smith for Philadelphia was really, really productive. He had a really good showing in both. I'm trying to remember if he was in Utah or Sacramento, one of those before he went to Vegas. And he actually was playing for Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse was coaching the Summer League team for the first 2 games. So he got hands-on with the verbiage and how, Nick Nurse wanted his teams to run. So I think he has a good shot to make the squad. He's probably somewhat of a lower end Tyrese Maxey, but a little bit higher version of Bones Highland. So
he's a high usage bench scorer. I mean, that's what he's going to be.
Yeah. So I think Philly could use that.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so those guys, I thought rookie. I'm trying to think of rookies that look good that were later picks. Who else was it? Man, it's a bunch of guys. I thought Keontae Johnson looked good for Oklahoma City, but again, I mean, they just got so much damn talent. I don't know what they're gonna do with their team. They literally have probably 10, 11 guys who could play, and I mean, they just keep drafting well. They got Cason Wallace there, and he probably has a shot to crack the rotation. So I'm not sure where Keontae fits in, but he was a good pick for them.
What did you think of Chet? I know he played. I mean, I was surprised to see him play a lot of summer league. I guess surprised and not surprised at the same time. But what do you think of his performance?
Man, Chet is he's unique in his own way. He put on a little bit more weight, although you can't really tell. He looks about the same frame.
He's still getting bodied.
He still puts on weight. And I mean, I think he played a lot because he hadn't played basketball in over a year and a half. So I think they kind of want to get him the feel of things and get him in some live action and get some guys who are trying to prove themselves. And he also was playing with Jalen Williams, the center. He was also playing with him. A couple of the other stars, I think he played with the other Jalen also in the first few games. So he was getting some live reps with some actual people that he'll be playing with. Man, he's going to be an elite defender off as soon as the ball tips off.
I'm looking forward to his blocks prop. Maybe when the market hasn't caught up to early in the season, but I think that's one thing that kind of did stick out to me about Chet was the number of blocks him and even Wembanyama was getting. Obviously, at his height, he should be able to get those blocks as well. So, I just want to get your thoughts on some of those players. Anything else that kind of stuck out to you?
But Chet is, man, sometimes he's just trying to do too much as far as dribbling and create his own shot. So, but that comes with the territory with summer league. I thought a couple of your guys was impressive. I mean, I know we're talking about rookies, but second year guys, I thought Easton was good. Obviously, Jabari. I thought those 2 guys were great. It's just a bunch of guys. We probably can do the whole podcast about it. But those are just a few guys off the top of my head who kind of stood out to me. I thought Castleton was really, really, really good for the Lakers. So.
All right, before we continue the conversation here, let me tell everyone about the best NFL contest that is happening, and that's over at Circa Sports. Circa Millions and Circa Survivor are back for the upcoming NFL season, and Mr. Derek Stevens, he's feeling very, very generous. $14 million in guaranteed prizes are up for grabs for these 2 contests. First one, Circa Millions. Simple, 5 NFL picks per week against the spread each week. Each pick that you do get correct, you get awarded a point. On any pushes, it's half a point, and you obviously try to accumulate the most amount of points to get the big prize at the end of the contest. And Circa Survivor, just pick a different money line winner each week. You can enter in Vegas, but you can play from anywhere. Sports Gambling Podcast, Sean and Ryan are going to be out there for the last weekend in August. So come hang out with the guys. Maybe they'll get you a drink as well. But you can get all the details about both of the contests happening in Circa Sports, the Circa Millions and Circa Survivor at circasports.com. Again, that's circasports.com. Scott, I know you mentioned you haven't been as heavily involved, or maybe not heavily watching as much as Lonte has been, but anything that's kind of caught your eye as far as players, except for the two teams that we've talked about?
Well, I was going to say Bates has been a nice player there for Cleveland, who was a very sought after prospect in college. Things didn't work out for legal reasons, and then he ended up in the MAC, and he was a high volume, low efficient scorer, but he has been solid in Summer League. For the most part, though, I feel like the main person I got to talk about who might win Summer League MVP, Cam Whitmore. Is he in line to win Summer League MVP? Because it feels like it.
Yeah, I think that if the Rockets do win tonight, and he puts up 20 plus, 25 plus points, I think that deservingly slow. I think that he's going to win the MVP for the summer league. But yeah, I was watching the game against Utah. He got off to a slow start. I think it was like 0 of 3 to start the game from 3-point line. He finally hit one. He saw one go down the basket, and after that, they just turned it up, especially in that second half. But yeah, Cam Whitmore to me has looked really, really good thus far in the summer league.
I saw he had 8 steals in one game too,
Yeah.
which is just insane. But I know that he ended up sliding, so a lot of people were focused on him in summer league. The talent was never in doubt. The question was the injuries, and I had some concerns, but it was mostly because of the fact that a lot of organizations thought that long term the issue was going to remain there. So the talent was never in question. The only issue was, can he stay healthy? Remains to be seen. But we know why he was a top 5 projected pick going in. It's because he looks significantly better than basically every other wing out there. So Whitmore's been great. That's been one guy I've had my eye on that's looked very sharp.
Yeah, I think that's a nice transition into the championship game here tonight between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Houston Rockets. So currently, as it stands right now, this line is currently at, I believe the last I saw was the Cavs were favored by 2 points, currently over on DraftKings. Total has climbed here. It opened up around 187.5, 188.5, depending on your book. Currently over on DraftKings, it has the total has climbed to 192.5 in this game. And rightfully so, because this Houston Rockets team has scored at least 100 points in every single one of their 5 wins in the summer league so far in the league, I should say. I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers here for the Rockets, but I know that they've been scoring at will. They've been shooting the 3-ball real well as well. Defense has been a question as well because they have allowed a ton of points as well. I think all 5 of their games have also gone over the total. I mean, their last game against Utah in the semifinal, that game ended up finishing 115-101. I think they scored like 130 points just in that second half. Cleveland, like Scott mentioned, they got the overtime victory against the Brooklyn Nets, and then they are into the championship. I guess we can go team by team here, and then we can, talk about the players and then get into the betting lines. But Lonte, let me kick it over to you. Let's start with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, the big names on their side has been Emoni Bates, sought after, highly touted prospect. Like Scott mentioned, things didn't work out for him, and then he did a transition or transfer over into the MAC. But he's looked pretty good thus far this summer league, along with Sam Merrill. Both of those guys are averaging 16.8 points and 18.8 points respectively. And also Isaiah Mobley has been really good for this team as well. Sharif Cooper, you could throw his name into that hat as well for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But what have you seen from this Cavs team that might enable them to win the championship here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's boring and it's summer league, but they play defense. That's why they're being propelled to this position. They've held their 5 opponents in Vegas all under 100 points, and they held Scott's team, Scott, under 100 in overtime. They scored 99 in overtime. So defensively, they're the best defensive team I've seen, and they don't have the sexy names. I mean, outside of Emoni Bates, who, he was a highly touted recruit, but as far as the draft process, I mean, he wasn't as highly thought of as some of those other guys, which is why he went in the second round for whatever reason. I mean, obviously it wasn't a talent, but, more so just baggage and some of the things that he was going through. But yeah, I thought he played well. He shot the ball extremely well. One thing you never have to worry about with him is he's going to get his shots up. But he's shooting efficiently, 44% from the field, 41% from 3. He's averaging 6 rebounds per game. And my favorite Emoni Bates stat of any, 0.6 assists per game. That's what he's averaging in the 5 games. So that just goes to show you what he's about. And I thought Sam Merrill was probably the best player throughout the the Las Vegas Summer League for the team. I mean, you mentioned it, 18 points per game, 43% from the three. He's shooting the ball lights out. Mobley's pretty much doing the cleanup. He's averaging 16, 8, and 5. He's the defensive anchor, not as good as his brother, obviously, but he's still a big body. He's able to score at multiple levels. He's added a little bit of three-point shooting to his game. He hasn't shot it a ton, but he has the ability to step out, and make a shot. I think the Cavs are like well balanced. They just like their roster just looks like at the beginning of the year, if you looked at it, you would be like, oh, whatever. Like they're just a whatever team, they're not going to think nothing of it. But they come in, they play good defense. They got low-level guys who they probably only got like 3 guys that are going to be on the NBA team.
I'm assuming Mobley's making the roster because his brother's on the team as well.
Yeah, he was there last year, but he more so played in the G League.
I'm saying he'll be in the league once again, at least for part of it.
Yeah, he'll be there, and he's improved his game, so he might have a shot at that roster. And also attributed to the defense. I mean, 3 of those 5 teams they held under 90 points. So I mean, I think Cleveland's defense has been carrying them. The shooting has been really good. I thought Imani's volume of shots has still been high, but again, he's taking more efficient shots more so than just checking up shots like he was at Eastern Michigan. So I think the Cavs had a pretty good, I mean, obviously they're in the championship game, but I thought they had a pretty good summer league as far as development and seeing what they had with some of those guys. A lot of those guys might get, assigned elsewhere, but you mentioned Sharif Cooper. I think he's been pretty good also running the point guard. I thought he's been fine. They had Cedric Henderson. He's been okay from Arizona. He went to Campbell, which is like not too far from where I saw him play a lot. I mean, Wendell Green, like they got a bunch of like low key guys, and you would just never think that they would be in this position. Also, Pete Nance, who couldn't make a shot at North Carolina, but he made every shot that he's taken for the Cavs, and the lineage there with his dad and his brother playing for Cleveland also. So that's a good story. So I think Cleveland has a good shot to win it all here tonight, mostly behind their defense.
All right, before we get over to Scott's thoughts here about the Cavs, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL season player props. So many ways to win over on Underdog, and Underdog is available in so many states. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code SGPN. Scott, let's get your thoughts on the Cavs here. I know you talked about Imani Bates, but what have you kind of seen from this Cavs team that may enable them to win the championship here tonight?
Well, it's really just a battle of styles because they play really good defense, and Houston kind of has an optional defensive approach, but it's worked out anyway because Houston's that good offensively. But if you want to talk about how they match up against each other, Cleveland does, once again, play with a certain level of physicality, which can give Houston some problems. If you want to look at the rebounding advantages for Cleveland in the last couple of games, for example, they have done pretty well on the glass. So second chance points could be a story in this game. The real thing I'm really trying to keep an eye on, though, is Cleveland's three-point defense against Houston's offense because they jack up a ton of threes. Yeah. And Cleveland's been pretty good for the most part at three-point defense. They were not very good against the Nets in the last game, but they won that one anyway. But if they can limit Houston on the three-point line and clean up the glass, they're in a great spot to win. So they definitely have the overall talent on paper to get the job done. But the Nets, once again, in the last game, shot well from three. But for the most part, Cleveland was a very solid three-point defensive team in the first 4 games they had in Summer League. I do think, once again, Cleveland is going to perform well if they can slow the pace and if they can really just out-physical Houston. But if Houston's able to push and if Houston's able to get open threes and they make them, then Houston's going to win. So I do think, once again, it's one of those classic battle of styles games where it could go either way, depending on what you might expect to see with regard to pace and with regard to actual execution.
Yeah, and the Rockets have, and transfer to the Rockets now, they've scored at least 100 points in all 5 of their victories here in Summer League. Then 3 out of those 5 games, they've scored 110 or more points. Against Detroit, they put up 113, 105 against the Thunder, 118 against the Golden State Warriors, and 115 in the semifinal game against the Utah Jazz. And, like Scott alluded to, it's really been the three-point shooting that has really led the Houston Rockets in that department of how much success they found as far as scoring points here. Lonte, let me kick it back to you, man. Obviously, we saw Jabari Smith have a great first 2 games at least, or the first game he had a subpar first half, but he really turned it up in that second half of the first game in Summer League. And then in the second game, I think he scored 38 in that game for the Houston Rockets. But outside of Jabari Smith and Tari Eason, it's really been the Cam Whitmore and Nate Hinton show. Hinton actually went to U of H down here in Houston. I believe, Kelvin Sampson was there at that point. But this team has been firing on all cylinders from the 3-point line, like Scott mentioned. But what has kind of stood out to you about this Rockets team? Because obviously they've been a huge offensive machine.
Yeah, man, athleticism, man. They got extreme athleticism with those guys, especially when those guys were in the lineup, Eason and Jabari. It just made those other guys' jobs a lot easier, as far as the shot making and being on the floor with NBA players who had, some experience against actual NBA players. And I mean, I thought Amin was really good the little time that he was out there. So I'm kind of sad that he, had that injury, but I thought he was extremely shifty. His vision was good. He was able to get to the rim with ease, blowing past people. Yeah, I mean, Cam is. I mean, he was always one of my favorites, but I mean, he has his deficiencies as far as his passing and some of the bad shots he takes. But I mean, overall, he's been really good, and he's been the catalyst for this team since those other 2 guys were resting. I mean, he's averaging 20.4 on 47%. He is shooting 29% from the 3, and that's with a decent amount of volume. 62% from the free throw line. So kind of want to get that up. And he's not going to be asked to shoot threes, but he's got this knack for getting to the rim and getting around people. So I think he'll be fine there. And I mean, physically, he's going to be able to post up smaller guys and get there. I'm interested to see how they use him in their rotation, because it raises a flag to me if they sign Dylan Brooks. They're kind of the same player, but I mean, Cam is probably more polished offensively, obviously. But I think they got similar skill sets, especially when Dylan was coming out of Oregon. But yeah, man, I think Houston has been lights out. And like Scott mentioned, if they're hitting the 3, I mean, it's going to be tough to beat them. But again, I think Cleveland has the bodies and some of the athleticism to be able to sustain some of those runs that they go on. But if they're hitting those 3s, man, it's going to be tough. And I'm interested to see how Imani and Cam match up against each other.
Yeah, outside of Amin Thompson, Tari Eason, and let's see, who was the other player? No, those were the 2 guys. But outside of those 2 players, the Rockets have 4 different guys that are shooting 38% or better from beyond the arc. Trevor Huggins, Matthew Mayer, like I mentioned, Nate Hinton has been really good, and Fletcher McGee has been really good.
That's a shooter. Fletcher McGee is a shooter.
I saw some highlights, man, from
Wofford.
Yeah, he has a nice release.
Kentucky.
They lost to Kentucky.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He had the worst game of his life. I
remember that. He couldn't have shot to save his life, but I watched him in the season.
Yeah, he was 2 for 21.
Yeah, he was really, really bad in that game. That I remember.
But he can shoot the lights out, bro. And Matthew Mayer is a real good addition too. As long as you keep the energy drinks away from him, He had a little incident in Illinois where he drunk he was playing Xbox and he drank 12 energy drinks and got sick. Yeah, man. Yeah,
that's not a good idea.
Yeah, right.
All right, guys, so let's get over to the actual spread here, and then we'll get to the total. Maybe we can dig up some player props as well. But let's start with the side here. Currently, like I mentioned, the Cavs are a 2-point favorite. Scott, why don't you lead us off here, man? Who do you think is going to win this championship game here tonight?
So I think it's going to be a bit of a coin flip, but I do think with that being the case, I'm actually going to lean to Houston to get it done. I am a bit concerned that Cleveland had to go to overtime, and you're looking at the actual scheduling spot. There's no day off in between. So now Cleveland has to play the back-to-back with overtime in the first game. I do wonder if tired legs will play a factor as this game is in the second half. Houston, yes, I am aware that they are 5-0. Yes, I'm aware that some reason for that is some players who are no longer on this roster, which I have to at least point out. But Houston can shoot the ball very well, and I do think that they have enough three-point shooting to overcome some of their defensive issues. Cleveland offensively, I think, is fine. Cooper's been good, and I mentioned and Bates, of course, has been very solid as well. But I do think, once again, with tired legs, I don't exactly want to be laying in this game. I can understand if Cleveland wins, it wouldn't totally shock me because once again, they're favored. But if you're asking me where I think the value might lie, I think the value might be on Houston because they did win relatively comfortably in the semifinals. So they were able to, I don't know if they were able to rest guys per se, but at least they weren't playing high pressure basketball late in the fourth quarter. It was kind of on cruise control. But if you want to give me a fade of a team off overtime with no time off and I'm getting points in what should be a close game, that's good enough for me. Houston's going to want to push the pace, which might make Cleveland even more exhausted. I'll go with Houston to get the job done.
All right, Lonte, spread here, Cavs -2. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean with the Cavs. Scott's not wrong. Like if I was
Fired.
on if I was on the Houston side, I would bring up every single thing that he just brought up. So I think
it's a coin flip game, so I'll take the rest advantage and hope it works out.
Yeah, and then like I thought that these guys are fighting for jobs and fighting for roster spots, so they're gonna be. You can make a debate that all these games were high level for a lot of these guys, minus the guys who aren't playing. And I think some of the power ratings for or the perception, I won't say power, the perception for Houston, like you said, Munaf, was more so with those guys in the lineup. Now they still have been performing. Mayer, McGee, Hudgens, and of course Cam have been performing after those guys have left. But I think they laid the groundwork and got the job done in a certain manner, which led them to, going on this 3-0 run without those guys. And I want to say Tari played in a game after Jabari sat, if I'm not mistaken. I think Tari played in 3 games and Jabari played in 2. So that's an advantage.
They both
right there.
played in 2.
Okay, maybe it was another game I was thinking about. But so I like Cleveland here. I like the defense. It does kind of concern me with the overtime thing. Cleveland is kind of like their summer league team is kind of like their real team. They play physical. They're gonna rebound. They're gonna play defense. They're not gonna take dumb shots. I mean, Amani will occasionally take a dumb shot, every other position.
Well, he's not gonna pass. So what else is he supposed to do?
Yeah, no, he's not gonna do that. So I'm interested to see if he gets hot, like he scores like 2 in a row. Cam is definitely gonna take the ball, and he's not passing for 3 possessions.
I mean, we might as well just let Cam Whitmore and Imani Bates play one-on-one for the championship.
Right. But yeah, I think it's an evenly matchup. I'm not gonna lie. It's not an edge either way. So I won't even fault anybody for taking Houston. And I think Houston does have the higher upside because they can shoot the 3 at such a high level. But again, the teams that shoot that 3 at the high level and depend on it, if they're not hitting, the Cavs are going to grind them out. The Cavs are going to win. They can win a half court. They're not going to push the pace. So if they can slow them down, make them play to the tempo, like Scott mentioned earlier, I think the Cavs got a good shot to cover the game. So I'm going to go.
I just think one of the tiebreakers involved is that. Do we agree that Whitmore is the best player here in this game?
Yeah, no argument from me.
I don't think it's that close. I mean, he was a first-round pick that was projected top 5. If you want to give me points and have the best player in your back pocket, I'm going to take it.
I don't hate that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rockets, obviously, here as well.
Homer.
Hey, man, this might be our only shot, like Scott mentioned, the next 10 years to win.
Hey, at least you get rings, man. You seen those rings?
Yeah, I saw it. I was watching the late game last night. No, actually, it was a Rockets game or it was a game after. I think it was a Dallas game. I was watching on the screen and they actually they were going to commercial break and they showed the ring that they're
like in the 3D thing rotating.
Yeah.
How much do you think you can get if you pawn that? 350?
maybe 349.
I want to say the person who created it was not created, but who designed it was the same person who designed the Lakers rings when they won in the bubble. A guy out of Beverly Hills. I can't remember his name.
It's a lot of diamonds for a summer league trophy, for a summer league, ring.
Hey man, the league's got money.
Some of these guys might need that money in time.
Yeah. Well, that's why I mentioned the pawn price because you never know.
Obviously, I'm gonna go with the Rockets here as well. It's a lot of the reasons, like Scott was mentioning, that number one, you have the Cavs coming off the overtime game. But I think for the Rockets that they have so many different shooters that can knock down the 3-point shot. It's not like 1 or 2 guys that they're depending on to knock down those 3-point shots. And you also have Cam Whitmore, who's been playing out of his mind as well. I know like we mentioned, and Scott mentioned this as well, that the injury concern was a huge factor of him obviously falling down the draft board where he was projected to maybe be a top 4, top 5, at least for sure a top 10 pick.
Man, he was top 5. Like he was slated to go. He was slated to go 4 at like -225, like throughout from the start of the draft, like all the way up until like draft day. Even at draft day, he was slated to go 4. Like he was like -175. I mean, he fell from higher, but he still was a prohibited favorite to go for.
I think it's safe to say that based on how he's played in his pre-draft projections, he's significantly overqualified for this level of competition. Do we agree on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. But and again, the rumor with the Rockets was that if he wasn't going to be injured or the medical was not a concern, that he would have probably been the number 4 overall pick for the Rockets instead of Amen Thompson. But it worked out very well for the Rockets. But yeah, I'm not going to regurgitate everything, guys, especially what Scott said about the Rockets here tonight. I'm going to go with the Rockets here on the spread. Brings us to the total. It has climbed 187.5. It opened up at 188.5 is the number that I saw on DraftKings last night. Currently, like I mentioned, 192.5. So I think might be a little correlation here that if you like the Cavs, you probably want to take the under. If you do like the Rockets here, you probably want to play the over. But Scott, let's start with you on the total here. We also do have some team totals. Let me mention those as well. It's pretty much a point difference here. 95.5 for the Rockets and 96.5 for the Cavs.
For me, even though I do think there is some correlation, I'm actually going to lean to the under, even though I am taking Houston. It's a championship game. I'm not taking an over that high in a championship game. Like, I understand Houston hasn't really tried to guard anybody, and they want to play faster. Cleveland doesn't. I think Cleveland's going to try to slow the pace as much as possible and just try to out-physical Houston in the half court. But it's really just based on a couple of factors. I mentioned that the overtime game might cause some short jump shots in the second half. You might see the Cavs once again play at a slower pace like they want to play at. But it's mostly just based on the fact that, once again, it's a title game. So I'm expecting a lot of pride on the defensive end. I doubt you're going to get pressure with nerves in a damn Summer League championship game, so I'm not exactly concerned about that. But I do think defensively, both teams will be more engaged than what you've seen probably up to this point. So I'm going to lean to the under. I think I feel better about the Cavs team total under, obviously, because I'm picking Houston to win the game. But I do think that for the sake of a championship game in any capacity, I'm going to tend to fade a total move that's gone up like 3 or 4 points. I'll fade the public on this one. I'll go with the under.
Lonte, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Scott said, and I agree with what you said. If you like Houston, you want to go over, because if they are going to win this game going away, it's going to be because of the 3-point shooting. And if you like Cleveland, like I do, I think you're going to grind the game out, make them hit tough shots. And I think that Cleveland's not even capable of, or they didn't want to get in a high-scoring game. I mentioned like 3 teams under 90 points, all 5 teams under 100, even the overtime game. I think Cleveland's going to be well equipped to deal with some of the things that Cam does. They're probably going to switch him with Mobley. They're probably going to put a little bit of Mobley on him, a little bit of Cooper. Cooper's a smaller guy, but he's got a decent amount of quickness to be able to stay in front of Cam, probably help side when the Rockets have some of those non-shooters on the floor.
Cooper was the Auburn guy, right?
No. Was he? Did he go to Auburn? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, and they have another.
He was the
Auburn
one who
guy.
went to the Hawks for a cup of coffee and he did nothing, and then he got shipped off, right?
He was the guy that him and Bronny James couldn't get in a party.
He was the Auburn point guard who had like the really, really bad shooting percentage, and then
yes, you see, it's another Auburn guard on the roster who also had a real bad shooting percentage.
Green shouldn't even be on a roster. Yeah. Like, I remember Green Wendell in college.
Yeah.
He was where? Like Eastern Kentucky, and then he transferred, and he was just
sounds about right.
He was
Western or
Auburn
Eastern
for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I hated that backcourt so much when they had Jabari Smith. I hated that backcourt so much.
Yeah.
But
anyway. I like the under, man. I think it's going to be a grind out of a game. I think it's going to be in favor of Cleveland. I'm looking forward to seeing what Mobley can do against Whitmore. I think it's a big test for both guys. So looking forward to the matchup, and hopefully the Cleveland and the under can get there. Nice little parlay for you.
Any player props have stuck out to either one of you guys? I know it's a very, very limited market.
I didn't even see any. Where are they?
So got player props?
Yeah, I saw some for.
I know DraftKings usually does like 10
they have player specials like Imani Bates 20+ points at +110.
That's a terrible deal, by the way. That's a
Cam Whitmore 20+ -180.
That's horrible.
Nate Hitton 20+ points +150.
I think I'm just out because DraftKings is trying to rob you in broad daylight. So
what about do they have McGee? I would like to see something with McGee.
Let's see here.
I doubt it because he's a bench player, if I had to guess.
No, they only have like 2 players for the Rockets, and they have like 3 players for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
What's the Mobley line at?
What are you looking for? 20+?
No, just in general. What do they have?
Yeah, they just have 20 plus at plus 135.
Yeah, they don't have over
That's
unders.
terrible.
Yeah, they don't have
too.
it over
Yeah,
unders.
that's
They do have halves. Total points for halves: 49.5 for the Cavs, and then 48.5 for the Rockets in the first half.
I think I'm just out on those. I'll lean
Yeah.
to Cleveland team total under, but that's solely because I'm picking Houston to win. But all those player props are just robberies, so I'm just gonna pass on those.
Yeah. One
I
thing
wanna
though,
say-
we just when me and Scott did the summer league preview, before he ended the podcast, he asked, "Did you have any long shots for summer league MVP?" And I said two guys. I said Jet Howard and Imani Bates because they are one-on-one players. They perform well in these kind of settings. We got one of the two. I think it's like 150. It was at like 150 to 1.
Well, I'm gonna ask though, if Cleveland does win,
he's gonna get it.
They're giving it to Bates, or they're gonna give it to Mobley?
Nah, Bates is gonna get it because he's probably gonna score points. Yeah,
I think Bates too.
Yeah. I don't know if they can. I don't know if a bench player's ever won it before. That's why I'm asking. Is he a bench player, or is technically starting in this?
I think he's starting. The number of minutes that
sure.
he's been playing. Let me see.
I think he's playing like 27, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah. He's at No, he's actually averaging 20, close to 30.
Okay.
29.
Yeah, I don't know if he's. I know that when they first started off, he was coming off the bench.
That's why I asked. I wasn't sure if he was still technically a bench player or not. I want to check the game box score with that semifinal game. But
if he has a good game, like if he goes crazy from 3, 4 of 7.
Yeah, he started. He played 34 minutes.
Yeah. So if he gets out from 3, gets a couple highlight plays, he's gonna get it. I think so.
I was just wondering if he actually would, because Mobley's been the defensive anchor. He's also, giving you rebounds and assists. Bates was pretty good rebounding wise against the Nets. He had 7 rebounds, but he's giving you less than 1 assist per game. In terms of overall stats, it would not shock me if Mobley won it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
All right, guys, let's close it out strong here. Maybe we give a best bet instead of a lock and a dog, unless you have a lock and a dog you want to give out. Maybe a best bet. Lonte, let's start with you, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Cavs on the money line because I got burned with the Lakers last night. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you've seen that game.
Oh, that was disgusting.
Oh, you mean the foul on the inbound pass?
Right, exactly.
The Lakers or the Clippers? Because
it was Lakers versus the Clippers.
Yeah, the Lakers won the game though, right?
Yeah, they won, but I laid 1.5.
Yeah, you had the Clippers. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I laid 1.5 with them, and I usually on spreads of -1 to minus
2 or less, I take the money line.
Yeah, minus 2.5, 3, depending on the money line and depending on how strong I feel about the play. I thought the Lakers would come back after they performed really, really poorly against Memphis. I thought they'd come out.
I watched that first quarter against Memphis. They didn't score for the first 7 minutes.
Right. So, I laid it with the Lakers, and that was disgusting. First of all, they blew the lead, and then the Clippers hit a 3, and then the dude fouls, and I'm like, holy shit. I was praying. I was like, well, please don't review it because it's just, it's just a one shot. And of course, he goes up, he makes it, game over. Yeah. So I'm gonna go with the Cavs money line here. It should be around. Let's see.
I see a minus 130 on
that's
DraftKings.
Perfect. I was going 125, 130. Yeah, perfect. I'll take the minus 130 for that as the best bet for the show.
All right, Scott, what do you got? Best bet.
All right. So my best bet, which once again you can tread lightly on it because it's a summer league game, but I will go with the team total under for Cleveland, which I believe was 96.5. I'm leaning to the under in the game. Cleveland can win this game and it still goes under if they really kill the pace. But it's mostly fading a team that's on a back-to-back with an overtime game attached to it, with a decently high team total. I think that number is a bit too high to me. They're playing 12-minute quarters or 10-minute quarters?
10 minute.
That's what I thought. So it's 10 minutes. So it's even 96.5 isn't the usual 96.5. I'm going to go with the under. The number just feels too high.
All right. For my best bet, I'm going to take the Rockets money line here, man. I think that that was
going to be my dog, but yeah.
Yeah. They've just been playing incredible basketball here. Obviously, they're in the finals here for a reason. It's really been led by shooting. And again, like I mentioned, the handicap is just not 1 or 2 guys. They're getting contributions from 3, 4, 5 different guys. And I agree with Scott when he mentioned that Cam Whitmore is the best player on the floor here. And when you have the best player on the floor and you're getting points here, I'm just going to take the Rockets money line here. I think that this group, I think that I know it's just summer league, but maybe it's setting some type of precedent for this new, head coach with Ime Udoka there and the new assistant coaches that, hey, even if it is summer league, that we want to establish a winning culture here after what's happened over the last several seasons for this Houston Rockets team. And again, guys, I know it's on both sides. The players are playing for, roster spots or even G League spots here. But I like what I've seen from this Rockets team, that they've been able to push the pace. I think that if the Rockets are smart here, like Scott mentioned, with the Cavs coming off that overtime game with no rest in between these games, that if the Rockets want to have success here tonight, they should push the pace here. So I got the best player on the floor. I have guys around him that can knock down the 3-point shot as well. I'm going to go with the Rockets here, plus 110 on the money line to get the job done and get those rings here back here to Houston in our maybe our only title in the next maybe 5 to 6 years. So hopefully that's what I'm banking on.
Well, at least they got baseball. So
yep. Yes, we do. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast, the 2023 NBA Summer League Championship betting picks. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Not really. Looking forward to the game. Am I going to watch it? Probably not, to be honest with you. But, looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. But you got baseball on, so I'll be watching that instead. But, yeah, looking forward to the actual season. Of course, we have a long way to go until then. Maybe a bit too much time, if we're being honest. But I know we'll be doing some division breakdowns and some win totals and stuff like that during the offseason, which should be fun. Besides that, of course, got the tennis podcast, which I'll have another episode out for some point tonight. Baseball. Every single weekday, we got that show going on. Besides that, a lot of podcasts. You get the drill. WNBA with Terrell and I.
Lonte, anything else, my man?
Nah, that's it, man. Go bet the Phoenix Suns under 51.5 right now.
I thought you were the one who was trying to convince me that it was going over.
Yeah, I did, but I said if it's over 48, I'm going.
What did I say it was going to be? I said it was going to be like 52.5 or something.
I think we said. I remember saying 54.5, but I thought. Yeah. I also remember that we mentioned that it would, if it opened anywhere around 50.5 or 51.5, we'd probably take a look in the over.
I have to reconsider my stance on the Suns under, though, because they signed Bol. So now I got to consider, them going over. No,
did they actually? Did that trade for TJ McConnell actually go through? Because I know they traded Campaign.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that went through for McConnell. I actually like McConnell.
Yeah, I like McConnell a lot too. I like him a lot.
He's going to be a good spark for them.
I thought it was going to be closer, like 52.5, whatever. But I know Lonte was the only one who was actually making a case for the over. Yeah, I wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah, if it opened anywhere mid 40s, 45, 48.
Yeah, because a team with Booker, Beal, and Durant was going to open up with a win total. No, it was going to be in the 50s. Like it was going to
be in the 50s. No worry.
I do like the rookies though. I do like the rookies.
All right, like Scott mentioned, we'll be here starting twice a week. Maybe we'll do another one later this week, maybe Thursday or Friday. Start kind of going around the division and recapping the 2022-2023 season. Also, the win totals are out as well, so we'll kind of talk about those as well.
I think you mean 23-24.
Yeah, sorry, 23-24, and then we recap 2022 and 2023 what we saw from those divisions and off-season moves, and look forward to the next season as well. So, if you haven't already subscribed to the NBA Gambling Podcast YouTube channel, go ahead and do so. For those of you watching, go ahead and smash that like button for us before you guys get out of here. And then you can follow the NBA Gambling Podcast Twitter account at SGPN NBA. Follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Follow Lonte on Twitter at XXLonteXX. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Till then, good luck with your bets here this week. Let's break these books off and let it ride.